Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dishin With Democracy. Today, we have a very special Democracy Matters centered episode, one of our community partners. My name is Husbaan. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a senior undergraduate coordinator with the Center for Civic Justice and a former Democracy Matters lead intern. With that, I'm going to introduce our team who helped put this episode together.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anastaijia Petrovska, and I'm a freshman. I'm also the lead intern this year for Democracy Matters, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi guys, my name is Claudia. I'm a senior intern here at the Center for Civic Justice, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hello everyone, my name is Zhunio, and I am a senior intern here at the Center for Civic Justice. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for helping put this episode together. We're so excited to talk about the mission with Democracy Matters, especially now I'm going to bring on our very important guest, Joan Mandle. She helped found Democracy Matters, so I'm going to add her to the stream right now. Hello, Joan. How are you doing?
Could you? I'm doing fine.
Oh, great.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, we're so happy that you're here. We're just wondering if you could introduce yourself and maybe talk about how you found Democracy Matters and why you decided to get involved in civic justice work.
Sure. Well, I am a retired professor of sociology and anthropology and women's studies at Colgate University. And I am the mother of an former NBA player, Adonal Foyle, who, along with me and my husband, who is also a retired professor of economics, decided that we would found and create an organization that would help undergraduates to translate the things they care about into political action. Colleges were and are very much involved with their students, and the students are active in lots of different organizations. But 20 years ago, when we first started Democracy Matters, students didn't really get too involved with politics. So, for example, if they were interested in the environment, they might start a garden at their university for organic vegetables, or they might go hiking in the woods, but they wouldn't link up or connect their love of nature and their desire to protect the environment with the political system. And so what we did was we tried to educate and show students that the way that they could be most effective in terms of protecting the environment and protecting nature was to find ways to act politically and influence our elected officials to help protect the environment. I mean, if I protect the environment as an individual, if I recycle my bottles, or I take care of my garden, that's good. I mean, it's very important, but it doesn't really help climate change that much. Whereas if I connect what I love to the political process and I try to influence and elect the people who will help protect the environment by passing legislation, then I'm doing a whole lot more to try to combat the problem of climate change. So Democracy Matters was to encourage students to join together and try to influence the political system, to try to influence the politicians and the legislatures at the state level and the national level to support the things that the students cared about. For example, environmental protection or racial justice or LGBTQ rights, or a whole string of causes that students were involved in that were not particularly supported by the political system, but could be if students put enough pressure and said, look, I vote and I want you to represent what I believe. So that's how we started.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that insight. And we also know that money in politics is a very important facet of Democracy Matters. And I know Maria had a very interesting question regarding fiscal sustainability.
So my question was, so some college students have this preconceived notion and fears regarding economic policy which deters them from voting. So do you believe that promoting fiscal sustainability could incentivize college students to vote?
I do. I believe that we can provide lots of incentives for students to vote. You know that your age group, the age group of students, has the lowest turnout of any age group in the country. In other words, 18 to 23-year-olds vote less frequently than any other group in the United States. So we have a big job to do to try to, exactly as you put it, incentivize students to vote. I think by explaining to students and showing them two things. First of all, how to register, because a lot of people don't know how, and informing them about when the election is and helping them to understand the process of voting, that we could encourage and produce a lot more students at the polls. One of the things that prevents students from voting is that their polling places are often far away from campus and they may not have transportation. So, to walk 5 miles to vote, although people should, is not going to be something that a lot of students are going to do. They have a lot of other things that they have to take care of. So helping them to actually register and get to the polls on election day is very important. But your question really has to do with their attitudes. And I think the idea of linking the things that they care about, for example, a sustainable economy, or as I said before, the environment, or racial justice, funding for higher education. There are lots of things that students do care about that aren't often reflected in the legislature, in the laws that we pass. Politicians don't listen to students as much as I think they should, partially because students don't vote that much. And more importantly, students don't give the big amount of money that big corporations do. So it's easy for politicians to just simply ignore what students want to have happen. But if we can show students that if they do vote, politicians will listen to them a lot more, that would create certainly a big incentive for them to go to the polls and cast their vote, and then be able to be in touch with those elected officials to tell them what they think. And that's one of the things Democracy Matters encourages students to do, is actually contact their elected officials and say, I believe that whatever the issue is, I would like you to vote and represent my vote. And of course, if one student does that, that's probably not going to do a lot. But if we get lots and lots of young people to weigh in and communicate with their elected officials, we're going to see a real change in the laws that they pass and how much attention they spend to young people.
Thank you so much. You bring some really good points about, how to encourage voting. And like our team here does do, we do a lot of efforts to try to get college students to get involved in voting. And I just appreciate the advice you're giving us. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Thank you for the work that you do as well.
Okay, so I know you kind of touched a little bit about how college students can inform themselves and become more active in voting, but I was kind of just going to ask, for students that have maybe never voted before, do you have any suggestions on how they can prepare themselves to make an informed vote, and also kind of how we can implement fiscal educations for students younger than college, like K through 12?
Sure. One of the improvements in our voting laws is that in a lot of states now, we are able to have 17-year-olds pre-register. And actually, in some states, 16-year-olds can pre-register. So I'm going to start with the second part of your question. One of the things Democracy Matters does, and that I would encourage everybody to do who cares about this, is to go into the high schools and talk to, juniors and seniors, or even younger students, and talk to them about, number one, the importance of voting and how their voice can be heard if they vote. And secondly, go through with them exactly how they can register to vote. There are great online programs. One of them that we use a lot is called Turbo Vote, which you go online and you it's a sort of one-shop stop. If you go online to TurboVote, you can register. They'll send you information. They'll send you information on when the election is and give you lots of points that makes students much more comfortable with voting. Other groups that do that are called Rock the Vote. Michelle Obama has a whole organization called When We Vote. All these organizations make it much easier for students to understand how to register and get information about voting. In terms of the question of whether students are going to understand how to vote and feel comfortable voting, I think that there's lots of information available. Students should inform themselves on the positions that the candidates take. The candidates certainly make it clear, and again, online, which is where students feel comfortable. You could look up the name of the candidate that is, running for office in your area and look and see what she or he is, saying about the issues that you care about. And if it's not listed, you can email them or call their office and say, hi, I'm a student and I'm going to be voting in November. You know that there is a big election coming up this November, 2022. And I'd like to know how, this representative stands on funding for higher education or making college free in the United States or anything else that you want to know. So, for anybody to say, well, I don't really know what these candidates stand for is just not the case. All you have to make is a little bit of an effort to go on the website, see what they think. And especially if you're not clear about what they think about the things you care about, contact their campaign. They would love to tell you where their candidate stands on a particular issue if you ask.
Hey, Joan, I just want to thank you again for participating in my Week of Action campaign. Part of the things we have already done here this semester at CCJ with Connections Democracy Matters was register over 2,000 students to vote, and we constantly agitate students to be proactive with their right to vote. So with this, my question is, how do you think COVID-19 and the progression of our society has impacted the ability of young people to understand the financial system and the prospects for the future?
I think that COVID has had a terrible effect, not just on our public health system, which it was not so great to begin with, but now is a whole lot worse, but on the ability of everyone to feel like they should be interested in what's going on in the world. If you're overwhelmed and you're constantly concerned about getting a deadly disease, which thank heavens is no longer so deadly, maybe, but in those days it certainly was. You're not going to really think about much else. That pretty much has priority. In addition to that, I think that young people have been so harmed in their education by having to be online all the time and having to take courses, online and not being able to join things like this. Your group that is helping to register people because you're not allowed to be, around other people and go to meetings and learn about things. I think that has really put a big damper on students' ability and incentive to learn about what's going on in the world, whether it's the economy or any of other issues that are important to know about when you're thinking about who to vote for. So, COVID has really been very problematic in so many ways in our society. And, right now it looks like even though there's a very contagious variety that's spreading on college campuses and every place else right now, it doesn't seem to be as lethal, as dangerous as the other versions. And my own hope, I wish it would go away altogether, but my own hope is that it will continue to create varieties that basically don't make us very sick, that make us feel like we have a flu or a common cold, which is no fun, but doesn't interfere with our lives in such drastic way.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Joan. Before we break for today, because unfortunately we're almost out of time, we were just going to ask you, do you have any advice for what you would consider like a successful Democracy Matters action campaign, or any advice for looking for anyone who wants to get involved in advocacy work and work for civic justice?
Well, of course, I think they should join Democracy Matters, and they can go to our website, which is www.democracymatters.org. Democracy really does matter. The ability of all of us to influence the laws that we live by and the laws that regulate our lives is an incredible gift. I mean, there are plenty of societies where people don't have that option, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And we do in this country. We have among the lowest voter turnout of any major democracy in the world, and that's really sad. So Democracy Matters is a way that you can get involved, or the organization at Stony Brook, your Center for Civic Justice, any of those kinds of organizations. It's really important to join them and support them. And besides that, it's fun. You learn a lot. You learn skills you can use after college. You work with other people who care about things in the world, and you make a difference. And that's really what's important. What we know from data and from studies, I'm a sociologist, so I'm always looking at studies. We know that students that are involved politically at any level in college or high school are going to continue to be politically and civically engaged people in our democracy. And that's what makes a democracy work. It doesn't work if we just, ignore it, like a lot of people do. And we know that our democracy doesn't work in a lot of ways. So I thank you for the work that you've done. If people out there, can't join the CCJ, or they don't want to join Democracy Matters for one reason or another, there are lots of other groups that are doing really, really good work. There are environmental groups. There are groups that help at-risk students and by tutoring them. So get involved, make a difference in your world. It really matters. It makes a difference to the people that you're trying to help, and it makes even more a difference to you, because you know that you're trying to do something to make the world a better place than what you found. So keep up the great work, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joan. I think you summed it up perfectly. And so with that, we're going to break for today. Once again, thank you so much for coming in today. We had such a great time. Look out at Civic Justice SBU. We're going to be posting this on our YouTube page and our Instagram Live, and hopefully on the Democracy Matters page as well in the future. So with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you guys so much, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.